Your stockpile questions are answered today. Amber says, so here's the thing, not many people have much money left over after bills and such, so stockpiling isn't that good an idea. Do you think they should just put money to the side ahead of time rather than stockpile? Also, she says, plus, I live alone, so products that last a long time and stuff going bad is more likely because it can't be consumed fast enough if there is a large quantity. I bought a bag of coffee and it lasts me like 3 months. So I'm going to answer a bunch of questions like this today because there's a lot of misconceptions about stockpiling. First of all, is it better to stockpile money, save money, or stockpile food? First of all, yes, you need to get at least $5,000 in your savings before you do massive stockpiling. Now, I'm not saying don't stockpile anything at all, but your focus needs to be $5,000 in the bank to cover any emergency. This will cover a refrigerator breaking, this will cover your car breaking down, and you need to buy a new car with cash. Yes, you can buy a car for $5,000 with cash. I have been looking for cars right now because we need 3 in our family, and they are out there. Would I be saving money for an emergency? Yes, I would be saving money for an emergency, but also at the same time, I would be stockpiling. There is absolutely no reason, I don't care if you're on Social Security, I don't care if you're on disability, I don't care what your situation is. Every single person can afford $20 a month, $5 a week to stockpile. If you can only afford $5 a month, let me show you how I would do that. First of all, I found these green beans for 50 cents. When I found them, I bought all that they had. There was only like 10 or 12, but I got them all. This is less than $5 just to stockpile for these green beans. So now I'm ahead on green beans. These green beans were just 69 cents at Thanksgiving. So I stocked up on the French style green beans because we like that. These were on sale for $1. So I stockpiled on these. You can get 5 of these. This chicken was 99 cents, so I was able to stockpile on these. Any of those, you can spend $5 a week stockpiling. Now, I think it's great if you can have a year's stockpile, but if you can't, just start with what you can. Can you make sure you have a week's worth of food in your house? Can you make sure you have 2 weeks, then a month, then 2 months, then 3 months? If you don't have a lot of room, it's okay. Just get what you can. If you can only have enough room to stockpile for 1 month or 3 months, then start there. This video is brought to you by our Stockpile ebook. It is for free right now at livingonadime.com. I will leave a link in the description below for you to get our free Stockpile ebook. It answers all your questions on stockpiling and gives you an idea of what you should start stockpiling. Then her next question is, I bought a bag of coffee and it lasts me 3 months. Okay, so a year's worth of coffee would be 4 bags for you. People see my stockpile. I am stockpiling for a family of 10. If there's an emergency and all of my kids happen to be home at Christmas at the same time, and their spouses, I'm gonna have 10 people here. I have enough food for us for several months for 10. I have enough food for Mike and I and just my 2 boys for probably 6 to 9 months. So you adjust it for your family. I am also a cookbook author and YouTube recipe creator. That's why you see all of my flour and my sugar and my cocoa and baking powder, all of those things are over here because I'm a recipe YouTuber. When it's on sale at Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter, I stockpile at the lowest price so then I can afford it. Now, here's the trick though. When you buy your green beans for 50 cents instead of, at the time, this was $1.94 in 2020, you've just saved $1.50. So now, let's say you have 10 of these. You have $15 now. Instead of spending $2 on this new, you only spent 50 cents. So now you've got $15 that you would have normally spent on these that you can use that money to stockpile something else. So go buy extra chicken when it's on sale and fill your freezer with it. That's where the money comes from. Then you start rotating through your food. So that extra chicken you just bought, you only eat that and you save the money that you would have spent on chicken and you buy something else that's on sale. Pork chops, pork loin, beef roasts, whatever is on sale, then you spend the money on that. And that's how I've gotten my grocery bill down to $400 for 4 people, because I try to only buy what's on sale. Do I buy everything that's on sale? No, I don't. Here in my town, we only have 2 grocery stores and Walmart. So the majority of time, Walmart is the cheapest for me. But at times like Christmas and Easter, some other things like this go down even less. So I stockpile even when Walmart's prices are rolled back. So that is how you get started. Don't go and buy 15 bags of coffee if you don't drink 15 bags of coffee. All of the stuff in my stockpile, we use on a regular basis. We are continually rotating through. Do I have it perfectly? No. Right here is some flour from 2023. I'm using it up right now for all of my bread baking videos so that I can get it used up. Because what happened was it got buried. I didn't realize I didn't pull it forward. I found it just now in my most recent organizing of my stockpile room. And so now I know it's there. I'm getting it used up. It's 18 months old, 18 past the expiration day, which means I probably bought it 3 years ago when we restocked after we moved. So now I'm using it up. It's just fine. It doesn't taste bad, doesn't have bugs, nothing like that. So I'm getting it used up. But if you're not going to use that much flour, don't stockpile that much flour. If you use 3 bags of coffee every 3 months and you're trying to get a year's stockpile, that's 4. If you're trying to get 6 months, that's 2. If you're trying to get 3 months, that's 1 bag. You do not have to have a gigantic stockpile for one person. You can have just a small closet. You can have just under your bed, in the bottom of your closet, to the side of your closet, under your couch. All kinds of places like that you can store food, and you don't have to store a lot to have 3 months worth of food. This email is from Mary. Love ya, Mary. We go back and forth all the time communicating about crazy things that people do, but she was just talking about my last video where I was talking about how people run to the grocery store when a storm is coming, and how I was saying how that's just absolutely ridiculous. There's no reason to be doing that. Absolutely no reason. And she says, I still can't understand people who don't stockpile even a month's worth of food. I have done this for years, especially after her divorce. I get from the Dollar Tree their shelf-stable milk quarts. I always have like 10 cartons on the shelves. The dates are spread out so I can stagger using them. Since I eat Cheerios every weekday for breakfast, I always have milk. And all of you people are going to holler about her eating Cheerios. Mary's health is perfectly fine. A bowl of Cheerios every morning is just fine. Then she said she now can go 4 weeks without a trip to the store. The weather here is too bad, maybe 49 days of snow, and sometimes all she needs is milk. And then she goes on to say she does get occasional items from Amazon. This is part of the reason why we stock up here in Wyoming. We have storms all the time. I never know when we could be stuck for weeks with snow and not be able to get out. And that's a very real possibility. In 1949, they had a blizzard that literally lasted over a month. I think it was 39 days. I can't remember for sure. It's very real possibility. Just because it hasn't happened recently doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Okay, the next question is from Amy. She's in Montana. Hello, neighbor. She says, I have a stockpile question, but first, thank you so much. I've been watching for a while and have been blessed from your teaching videos, saving money, stockpiling, etc. You are welcome. She says, I have a question about my stockpile. In some of your videos, you stated that canned food can last up to 8 years past the date on the can. Does that also include canned meat and dairy items? I made a few mistakes when I started to stockpile and overbought on those. I just rotate my food, but have some canned tuna chicken with 2023 dates on them. I also found a jar of Alfredo sauce with 2022 date on it and a jar of nacho cheese with 2023 date on it. Will canned meat and dairy be okay past the date on the canned jar? And she said, one more thing, please bring back the live shows. We miss watching them. Thank you. I'm glad you are missing those. We still have not made a permanent decision on that yet, but don't plan on doing them in the near future. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So canned meats and dairies past the expiration date. So as a general rule, fruits, vegetables, all of those types of non-dairy, non-meat items, 8, 10, 25 years past the expiration date, they are perfectly fine. When we moved to this house, I found a can of tomatoes that had fallen behind the shelf, and I decided to go ahead and open it up and eat it. It was perfectly fine. 8 years past the expiration date, which means it was anywhere from probably 10 to 15, it was anywhere from 10 to 12 years probably when it was manufactured. And it was perfectly fine. The way to tell is to open up your can. If it smells bad or looks bad, like this brand new can of pumpkin I opened, and the can looked perfectly fine. But later, after I opened it, I realized it had been severely dented and the seal had broken, but you couldn't see because the paper on the outside had covered it. Well, obviously, this can of pumpkin is bad. If you see mold, if you see bubbles, if you see just a bad color, then smell it. If it smells bad or looks bad or tastes bad, dump it out. But if it tastes just fine, if it smells just fine, and it looks just like normal, it's more than likely, I would say 99.9% sure that it is safe to eat. I am so sure that I would definitely eat it myself. Now, she specifically asked about meat and dairy. Yes, meat and dairy, I would go 5 to 10 years past the expiration date. I would probably keep it more in the 5-year range. Dairy, the same thing, the same rules apply. If it smells bad, looks bad, tastes bad, then throw it away. But if you open it up and it looks just fine, which I'm sure from 2022 and 2023, that's only 3 years. That would be perfectly safe to eat, and I would have no problem eating it. All right, the next question comes from YouTube. It says, I would like to know what, I think she means what, will be your backup plan for your stock up if your house is destroyed by a fire like in California. Thank you. There is no backup plan. You just start over again. So I think people make this stockpiling way too complicated. First of all, the chances that your house is going to be burned to the ground like it is in LA or wiped away in a flood like it was in North Carolina a couple of months ago, the chances of that actually happening are nil. Like 90% chance that your house isn't going to be hit from one of these things. So to just say, oh, I'm not going to stockpile because if my house burns to the ground, then everything's going to be lost. Okay, well, yeah, there is that chance that will happen. Yes, there is the chance that your house will be blown away by a tornado or hurricane or wiped away by a flood or burned to the ground like a fire. I get that. But there's a 90% chance that if you are in that situation and you're right in the middle of that situation, that it's not going to hit you. So there's like a 99% chance that the rest of the country that doesn't have disasters like that, you're not going to get hit. So it's ridiculous for people to say, well, I'm not going to stockpile because what if it gets burned to the ground? Now, as to the question, what is my backup plan if something like that happens? My backup plan is to pull myself up by the bootstraps and start again. I have started again. I don't know, guys, tell me, comment if you want Mike and I's story, because actually Mike and I have an interesting story also of the last 30 years of our life and things that we've gone through and how we've had to start all over again from the beginning. Got wiped out with medical bills when we were first married when our daughter was born. We were making $20,000 a year and we had $12,000 in medical bills. We got wiped out when we had to write a check to the bank to sell our house. We had to sell the house that we owned to someone. We had to pay someone to buy our house, $8,000 when we were earning $9, when Mike was earning $9 an hour. Yeah, we did. And so those kinds of things happen all the time. You just pick yourself up and you just start stockpiling again. If I have the money and we have a place to live and we're renting a place or buying a place and rebuilding, and I have $1,000, yeah, I'll just go to the grocery store and get it all bought at once and just get it into place. If we don't have the money, I'll just start stocking up 5 cans a week, like I did when we earned $20,000 a year with 2 kids. And $12,000 worth of medical bills. I mean, it's just what you do. You just pick yourself up, start over again. I'll just start buying $5 a week or 5 cans a week, however you want to do it. At Thanksgiving and Christmas, if I have extra money, I'll stock up on the extra good sales. Easter's coming up. They always have extra good sales. So that's what you do. You just pick yourself up and just start over again. The next one is, Tara, I have a few questions. What brand of powdered milk and shelf-stable milk do you recommend? Also, can you freeze gallons of milk? I don't have a particular recommendation. Whatever is the cheapest is what I get. So I will say get skim milk instead of milk with fat in it, because that will go bad quicker. So if you see fat in the milk, like okay, so this is the one that I have right now, but you can see right there, it says 0 grams of fat. This is the one that I have on hand right now. I bought it in 2017. Probably should start using it for my baking now, but make sure that it doesn't have fat in it. Some of the milks that come in the yellow can, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's from Mexico. Some of those have fat in them. And if they have fat in them, the fat can go rancid. And so then your milk will go bad quicker and taste bad. In that situation, if it goes rancid and it tastes and smells bad, then I would just go ahead and throw it out or feed it to the pigs or whatever, you know. But if it smells bad, smells rancid, I'm not going to go ahead and eat that. Then the other thing was, can you freeze gallons of milk? Oh yeah, freezing milk is super easy. I get the milks with the indentation on the side and I just throw the whole gallon in the freezer, and then that indentation pops out and gives it room to expand. If you don't have the plastic ones that have that, or let's say you have a half gallon in a carton or something, just pour off a half a cup of milk and then put it in the freezer, and that gives it room for expansion, and it'll last 6 months to a year in your freezer. When you take it out, let it defrost, give it a really good shake, because sometimes the fat separates from the milk, and if you shake it up really good, then that fat and milk remix together and you have whole milk again. If it's skim milk, it's not going to separate, but if it's whole milk, it might. All right, my next question is from Kathy. She says, what cracks me up in Florida, they will show people in the store before the storm crying because all the water is gone from the shelves. Meanwhile, all they have to do is go home and fill up containers from their tap, and they would have had all the water they need for the storm. Never understood it. Yeah, I don't understand it either. It is absolutely ridiculous. I understand. I have lived in those houses. I've had 2 or 3 places where I've lived and the water was literally not drinkable. It would have made us sick to drink it. Okay? I have lived in those places. I get some places don't have drinkable water from the tap. 95% of the United States has water that is drinkable from the tap. May not taste good, but it's safe to drink. Okay? And the majority of those people who don't have safe drinking water live in Michigan, Democrat controlled. Let's think about that. And they live in places where they're choosing to spend their tax money on things other than keeping up their water system, or people who are on wells. So I understand that there are some places, but the majority of the country, you can just come home and fill up your water in containers that you already have. Now, what would I do? I would get every pot, every pan that I own, fill it up, every pitcher, glasses, canning jars, anything that will hold water, totes, the bathtub, the sinks. I would be filling anything that will hold water. If you have a pond outside, get it filled up if you have notice, because at least you can use that water to wash with or do dishes with, that type of thing. You don't necessarily have to drink it. Then you can save the drinking water for other stuff. But it is absolutely ridiculous, first of all, for people to be spending so much money on bottled water that just comes out of the tap in a place like Houston. I mean, I've been to Houston, and I don't know. Anyway, sorry if you live in Houston. I was there about 15 minutes and decided it wasn't for me. But I love people from Texas. Mike grew up in Texas, but oh my, Houston, wow. Anyway, water is perfectly drinkable in the majority of the United States. So stop wasting your time and your money on things like bottled water and use it to pay off your debt. Everybody keeps hollering how they can't afford this and they can't afford that. And yet I see the water at my Walmart is continually emptied. The shelves are continually emptied of water at my Walmart. We live in a place that has perfectly fine water. If you have enough room to store bottled water, you have enough room to store reusable containers of water. If you're traveling, my grandma would just take a thermos, take a Pepsi bottle, take a, one of those big, football thermos or water jugs, they hold like 5 gallons or something. She would put one of those in the back of the Model T or Model A when they went on their Model T and Model A tours and just refill it as you go along. It's absolutely ridiculous to spend money on bottled water. That is probably above anything else. I would say that is the aside from college. I'll put college at the top. But college is the number 1 biggest waste of money. Number 2 is bottled water, and number 3 is eating out. Oh, no, let me change that. Number 3 is credit card interest and car loan interest. Those are, in my mind, the top 3 wastes of money. And I'm sure that list will change, but you know what I mean. So stop wasting money on bottled water. Start spending it to get your debt paid off. And if you don't like the taste, get yourself a reusable filter. If you don't like the taste of the chlorine, you can pour it you can pour it in a pitcher that doesn't have a top and just leave it sitting out on the counter if you want it cold. Put it in your refrigerator and let the chlorine evaporate, and that will evaporate all the chlorine. But I personally want my water chlorinated because I don't want any bacteria in my water. And the water that you're getting at the store has been chlorinated at one point or another. They may have taken all that stuff out with all their filtering, but you know, it was at one point to help kill all that stuff. So if you guys have questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will try to get to them. If you want to learn more stockpiling tips, please go watch this video next and visit us at livingonadime.com.